Welcome back to the MG Horror Studio YouTube channel. As we all know, haunted villages are always an intriguing theme explored by Japanese horror game developers. We've had the terrifying Inanaki Tunnel and the chilling Fatal Frame, with monstrous creatures lurking in the darkness, ready to claim your life at any moment. Today, let's explore another equally eerie village in the recently released horror game, Hollow Cocoon. The story of Hollow Cocoon is set in Japan in the 1980s. You will play as Minato Jinba, a college student living far from home in a small dorm in the city. One night, Minato receives a call from his father. Mr. Ag informs him that Minato's grandmother, Kinu Mayama, is in critical condition, and he hopes Minato can come to visit her one last time. It has been 10 years since Minato last visited his hometown, partly due to studying away from home and partly because of his deep resentment towards his grandmother. This resentment stems from the fact that when Minato's mother passed away, Kinu did not bother to attend her own daughter's funeral. However, after pleading and advice from his father, who emphasized that he is Kinu's only surviving relative, Minato finally relents and agrees to return to the village of Ichinos, nestled in the desolate mountains, his mother's homeland, to visit his grandmother. At the hospital, the doctor informs Minato and Mr. Ag that yesterday, a delivery person found Kinu collapsed in the garden and managed to promptly bring her to the hospital. Unfortunately, Kinu's current condition is not optimistic. The doctor advises them to transfer her to a larger hospital for better treatment. Mr. Ag, being the son-in-law, naturally agrees with this suggestion. However, due to the urgency of the situation and the time-consuming nature of the transfer, he tells Minato to rest at Kinu's house for a few days. Once they have completed the hospital transfer for Kinu, he will come to pick Minato up. Kinu's house is situated deep within the remote village of Ichinos. On the way to the village, Minato observes numerous dead poultry and scattered trash on the ground, shops covered in dust and closed shut, with no sign of people around. Based on the letter sent by the village head to Kinu's house, he learns that the villagers have been relocated for the construction of the village dam project.
父さんと母さんに連れられて、じいちゃんの弔問に来て以来だな。あれから10年以上経つのか。
In the hotel room, Minato accidentally came across a letter that his mother had written to his grandfather. Yui, his mother, wrote that she couldn't bring herself to disclose her condition to her husband, and the constant need to keep it a secret was causing her heartache. She didn't know how long she could keep the secret, and as of now, the nature of that secret remained undisclosed. In the letter, Yui also expressed sadness because her own mother always despised her, although she didn't understand why. Due to their strained relationship, Yui confessed that she had to lie whenever Minato suggested visiting his grandparents. It might seem amusing that an adult like her would write such heartfelt letters to her father, but Yui explained that it was only when she wrote letters to Saichi and heard his comforting words that she felt a sense of peace. Exhaustion quickly led Minato into a deep sleep, and he experienced a terrifying nightmare. In his dream, he saw peculiar scenes, from missing person posters, a red-gated shrine deep in the woods, Kinu, and the family silkworm room, to his grandfather's death, a field of crimson flamingos under the evening sky, and his mother's final moments on a train track. All seemed like a chaotic and unreal dream, but one thing caught Minato's attention. It was a scene of Kinu standing in the family's silkworm room when he was a child. She said, "We must take care of the silkworms meticulously. Keep them in a warm room and feed them plenty of mulberry leaves. Once they become beautiful cocoons, we will cook them and extract the silk. Even when they leave the cocoon, they have no mouths, and they can't even fly. They only know how to lay eggs and die. It's humans who give them such a life cycle." When Minato woke up, it was already dark outside. He heard a knocking sound at the front door, as if someone was knocking, but when he opened it, all he saw was a bloodied chicken head. Before he could comprehend what was happening, the phone inside the house rang. As Eiji, he called to inform Minato that he couldn't come to pick him up tonight because the situation had become quite serious. The police informed him that Kinu's collapse wasn't a simple accident or illness. They found strangulation marks on her neck. It seems someone intentionally harmed her, so Eiji had to stay at the hospital to support his mother-in-law and assist with the investigation. Before hanging up, he reminded Minato to be cautious while alone, as the perpetrator might still be lurking around. Minato had already felt that something was off about this house, but now he couldn't go anywhere else, so he went down to the kitchen to take a sip of water and calm himself. Suddenly, a figure passed by outside the window, making Minato startle. Despite his fear, he decided to venture outside to see what it was. The horrifying scene before him left Minato terrified. A woman with long hair, emaciated, was sitting in the middle of the yard, eating a live chicken. Immediately, he ran back into the house and locked the door, hoping the woman wouldn't notice him. The entire house suddenly lost power, and Minato, frightened, rushed to find his phone and dialed the police. Before he could say anything, the girl appeared right behind him, forcing him to use all his strength to escape. After making sure he was out of her sight, Minato continued to search for any remaining clues in the house, believing that the assailant might not have erased all traces. He accidentally found the passcode to unlock a room at the end of the hallway. The long-haired woman had also chased after him. Instinctively, Minato felt the need to quickly open the door, enter, and hide inside, making sure to block the door to keep her outside. Why was such a creature in this house? Minato wondered, could his grandmother have also been attacked by it? In that secret room, Minato found a letter from a doctor addressed to Kinu. Based on X-ray images, the doctor discovered abnormalities in Kinu's skull, revealing a brain tumor. This tumor was the cause of her severe headaches and memory loss. The doctor urgently recommended treatment, advising Kinu to seek opinions from family members and go to the hospital as soon as possible. However, she had never mentioned this to anyone in the family. The place Minato was standing seemed to be Seichi's room, adorned with a beautiful collection of butterflies on the wall. When Minato was young, Seichi would always embrace him and share fascinating stories about butterflies, a simple hobby and small joy for him. Inside the room, there was another door leading to the backyard, and at the end of a narrow path was an old warehouse with a large door. It seemed like no one had set foot there in a long time, but this was the only way, so Minato decided to enter and investigate. But before delving into the mysteries inside the warehouse, let me share with you the legend of a beautiful princess named Mayu. Once upon a time, there was a princess named Mayu, blessed with enchanting beauty. Under the spring moonlight, the princess's elder sister, consumed by jealousy, led her to a terrifying mountain, where wandering lions roamed, and abandoned her there. Yet, the princess returned home unscathed, much to everyone's astonishment. When the summer moon glittered in the sky, the elder sister again took the princess to a shady hill where hungry hawks gathered. However, once again, Princess Mayu defied her fate and returned unharmed. As the autumn moon shone, the sisters' patience reached its peak. She left the princess on a boat in a distant sea. And then, as the night enveloped the land, the princess returned once more. Finally, under the winter moon, when bitterness and coldness invaded their souls, the elder sister brought the princess to a garden and dug a hole. That night, the princess never returned. Only a cocoon and small white worms piled up beneath the cold ground. Based on this strange legend, Minato found a clue leading to a passage that seemed like a dungeon. There, he discovered an empty prison cell and a remaining letter. To Lord Kyuubi, please forgive me. I haven't seen anything nor spoken to anyone. I promise to serve the Mayama family forever, so please release me from here. I am also human, please don't use my flesh as a meal for that creature. The notebook left by Kinu's ancestors also revealed that through generations, the Mayama family has consistently upheld the tradition of breeding and selling silkworm eggs. Mayama silkworms possessed a remarkable sheen and elasticity that no other silk type could match. The special silk produced by Mayama silkworms was nicknamed the Threads of Paradise and was believed to bring prosperity. The legend narrated that the ancestors of the Mayama silkworms were found on the body of Princess Mayu. These silkworms were nurtured and revered as the family's heirloom, becoming a symbol of the Mayama family for many centuries. While pondering over the gathered information, Minato suddenly heard the sound of wind behind a wall, indicating a hidden passage. Here, he found a photograph of a young girl, around the age of 13, bearing a striking resemblance to the portrait found in the house. Behind the photo was the name of the girl, Ayano, who passed away on November 13, 1930. Minato had no idea who she was until he found the Mayama family genealogy. Ayano was the older sister of his grandmother, Kinu, but he had never heard his grandmother mention her. At the Mayama family's former hideout, Minato continued to find his grandfather's diary from his youth. Through the diary entries, he discovered that his grandfather felt fortunate to be favored by Lord Kyuubi, Kinu's father, and become part of the Mayama family. In the eyes of Lord Kyuubi, Saichi was a loyal and trustworthy man. However, the truth was that Minato's grandfather fell in love at first sight not with Kinu but with Ayano, Kinu's older sister, upon first setting foot in the house. Another horrifying truth was revealed in the diary of Kinu. The pages vividly depicted Kinu's envy and anger when she found out about Seichi's deep affection for her sister. One autumn afternoon, the two cousins went up the mountain together to admire the beautiful autumn leaves. Kinu spoke words that hurt Ayano, demanding an end to the close relationship because her sister would marry Saichi in the coming spring. Kinu's jealousy inadvertently placed Ayano in a difficult situation. Ayano loved her younger sister dearly, so upon hearing Kinu's words, she felt heartbroken and made a decision. As soon as Kinu turned away, Ayano threw herself off the cliff, ending her short life. Since that day, Kinu has been haunted by guilt and regret for what she had caused. On a snowy night, she heard someone calling her name, so she went outside to check, extremely surprised to find that the voice belonged to Ayano. Everything about her, from clothes and shoes to her hair, remained the same as the day she fell off the mountain, except now she couldn't speak. Kinu rushed forward, grasping Ayano's warm hands, tears rolling down her face. She promised never to let her go again. Dr. Yaniai Shimamura, a close friend of Kyuubi, was then invited to monitor Ayano's condition. A month had passed since Ayano returned. She still remained silent, spending all day in her room, staring into space with a vacant expression. However, when Kinu was by her side, her face lit up with boundless happiness. Strangely, she didn't eat or sleep but only drank a lot of water as if desperately thirsty, yet never went to the bathroom. Sunlight even caused burns on her skin. Day by day, although not eating anything, Ayano's body underwent strange changes. Her limbs became longer, and her body grew taller. Ayano even possessed the ability to heal wounds rapidly, evidenced by the disappearance of her burns in just one day. These anomalies set her apart from an ordinary human being. Occasionally, Ayano would stare intensely at the doctor and a few servants with a longing gaze, as if she wanted to devour them alive. Eventually, the tragedy occurred. Ayano consumed one of her own servants. Witnessing this horrifying scene, Dr. Shimamura wanted to abandon the treatment, but Kyubi pleaded with him earnestly. Out of deep respect for his close friend, the doctor agreed to forge a death certificate for Ayano to cover up the incident. He used the body of the deceased servant to fake Ayano's death. As a result, everyone, except the Mayama family, believed she had passed away. After completing the task, they imprisoned Ayano in an underground dungeon, replacing her meals with the blood of chickens, cows, and even human blood. One day, Kinu claimed that her sister was experiencing abdominal pain. The doctor examined her and discovered that she had been pregnant for 6 years. However, a normal person couldn't sustain a pregnancy for such a long time. 3 years later, Kyubi disappeared without a trace. The doctor and Kinu collaborated to perform a surgery on Ayano to deliver the baby. That child was Yui, Minato's mother, born from a monstrous creature. This somewhat explained why Kinu seemed indifferent to the apparent departures of family members, as they were technically offspring of her daughter Yui.
卵を産んで死んでしまうの。人がそういう虫にしてしまったの。
私は蝶じゃない。
Continuing from there, Saichi, somehow learning about Ayano's survival, immediately wanted to visit her but was denied by Lord Kyubi, who claimed his daughter was unwell. Shortly after, Saichi was unexpectedly summoned to the Mayama estate. Lord Kyubi, with a malicious expression, informed him that Ayano was suffering from a deadly illness. If Saichi wanted to see her sister, he had to marry Kinu, Ayano's younger sister, and live with them for the rest of his life. Due to his deep love for Ayano, Saichi quickly agreed. He then met Ayano, who was confined in a dark underground dungeon beneath a cave, shocked by her current condition. Nevertheless, his love for Ayano did not waver. Saichi married Kinu and left the village right after Yui was born, but he always harbored the intention to reunite with Ayano. Later, he accidentally discovered the existence of the cocoon through Lord Kyubi's notes, which suggested that it could revive and heal the sick. 20 years after leaving the village, Saichi returned with the hope of using the cocoon to cure Ayano. However, Kinu disagreed. In her mind, her sister had no illness and had never been a monstrous creature. Therefore, she believed Saichi came to separate the two sisters, a scenario she wouldn't allow to happen. To prevent Saichi from taking Ayano away from her, Kinu conceived a cruel plan. She threw her hairpin into a well and asked Saichi to retrieve it. Naively, Saichi believed his wife and without a hint of suspicion, while attempting to retrieve the hairpin, Kinu embraced him from behind and used all her strength to push him into the well, causing his death. The truth about Yui's death also became clear when Minato found a letter his mother wrote to Kinu. After Saichi's death, Minato's mother returned to find Kinu and uncover the reason why she concealed Saichi's departure from the family members. It turned out that the day Minato's mother died was also the day the two women met. When they met, Kinu saw the image of her beautiful sister in Yui, and the old feeling of jealousy rushed back. Jealousy gradually corroded Kinu's sanity, and she took Yui to the basement, revealing the entire truth about her biological mother, that she was the product of a monster. Stunned by the truth, Yui recalled the days with her father. Since Yui was a child, Saichi noticed that she constantly felt thirsty. One day, returning from work, he found the girl drinking the blood of a swan. When asked why, Yui innocently replied that she was too thirsty and couldn't stand it, so she drank the swan's blood. Instead of being horrified by Yui's difference, Saichi decided to cover it up for his little daughter. To prevent Yui from realizing her difference from normal people, he bought a lot of blood and drank it with her. Partly to comfort his daughter, partly to conceal the truth that Yui was not Kinu's daughter but Ayano's. Everything thereafter unfolded just like in Minato's dream. His mother, unable to accept the truth, sought death on the railroad tracks. Minato, as it turned out, also carried the lineage of a monster, and the terrifying girl he saw was none other than his maternal grandmother, Ayano. Finally, after numerous obstacles, Minato found the place where his grandmother had been held captive. There, he discovered a wooden table, and on that table, Minato found the final notes from Kinu to her beloved sister. Kinu knew she was seriously ill and wouldn't live much longer, but she feared that after her death, there would be no one to take care of Ayano. The last thing she could do was take her sister along by poisoning Ayano, and then end her own life with a noose. She also confessed to having murdered everyone, Kyuubi, Saichi, Yui, and even her own sister. However, Kinu's plan failed. Ayano did not die. On the contrary, Ayano tried to prevent Kinu from taking her own life. However, it was only a matter of time before the malevolent disease would swiftly take Kinu's life before she could repent. Minato would then reunite with Ayano, his monstrous grandmother, in the dungeon. The surroundings shook, and a large rock fell, trapping Ayano underneath. Here, knowing the whole story, Minato would be faced with two choices, either to kill or to reach out and save Ayano. And these choices would lead to different outcomes. If you choose to save Ayano, the story then transitions to a phone call between Minato and his father. He expresses his desire to drop out of university and tells his father not to try to persuade him. Minato decides to stay at his grandmother's house forever because that's where he belongs. Afterward, he hangs up and prepares a meal to bring down to the dungeon for his grandmother. However, if you choose to kill Ayano, the scene shifts to a year later in the autumn. Minato returns to the village with a bouquet in hand and visits Kinu's grave. Minato reveals that on that day, Ayano attempted to save Kinu and brought her out in front of the house. Since then, Ayano has continued to call Kinu's name until her last moments. Minato also returns to the dungeon to bury Ayano, but she has disappeared, leaving only an empty coffin. Perhaps she still wants to live and continue searching for her sister. As Minato prepares to leave, he sees the figure of Ayano at the Torii gate in the distance. He promised himself that he would never return and would live a normal life. There are also two special hidden endings. To achieve these endings, you must use the coins collected in the game to complete the arcade games. Your reward will be a red ticket. Collect these tickets to redeem points and use the points to exchange for items in the store, such as a paper hat to prevent aliens from reading your thoughts or a butterfly-shaped key. Returning to the game and using these items will unlock secret endings. The butterfly-shaped key will help you unlock a room containing a medicine created by Kyuubi. Those who take it will be reborn and leave behind an empty coffin. When you have the pill, a new choice will appear at the end of the game, which is to give the pill to Ayano. After that, Ayano truly gets reborn, leaving behind a giant coffin and turning into a beautiful young girl. However, her eyes turn red, and she takes Minato's life. The last secret ending is related to the tin hat. You'll notice the appearance of a UFO and extraterrestrial beings in the village. At the old Miyama family estate, you'll hear some strange noises coming from a room with tatami mats. Following that sound will lead you to a secret passage. It will lead to an empty field with a mysterious circle in the middle. Then, a UFO appears and takes Minato into the sky, with Ayano waving below. While not very related, this ending seems quite amusing and humorous, doesn't it?
たとえ繭を出られても、もう口はないし、飛ぶこともできない。卵を産んで死んでしまうの。人がそういう虫にしてしまったの。
And That wraps up the entire story of Hollow Cocoon. What do you think of today's video? If you have any feedback for me, please leave a comment below. Goodbye and see you in the next videos. Bye bye.